Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here. So we finally got a batch of Knights of the Frozen Throne cards. Now, it has been a while. We basically got the big announcement a couple of weeks ago, and they said they won't be releasing cards for a while. Well, it looks like the card release train has started, and even though I only got like 8 cards for you guys tonight, I mostly just want to give you guys this so kind of see more into the expansion because the first few cards they revealed kind of sucked. Yeah, they highlighted a few new mechanics, not really new, like lifesteal's not really a new mechanic, kind of existed on cards, they just kind of got spelled out, and some of the other cards is obviously just never going to see play. So, we wanted to get a bit excited, we want to see some of the actual cards that we might actually be able to play in the upcoming expansion. So in this batch, we didn't exactly get too much of that, but there is some promise. It started off with the Ticking Abomination, 4-cost 5/6, obviously very powerful statted card, but is it powerful statted card for constructed? I would argue probably not. So maybe it's like pretty okay in an arena deck that has a lot of spells. I mean a lot, because if this thing kills one other minion, it's not worth it. Obviously, there could be some cards that work with this effect, but they don't exist yet, and we don't know if they exist. I say that because some people actually quite heavily criticized my criticism of this card, where this card is obviously kind of shit. So, what would change this card? If there could be like a Deathrattle transfer effect, perhaps? I don't know. If there is maybe a very convenient silence, if there is some kind of minion donation device or something. Stuff could happen that could make this card really good, but that basically applies to all cards that look like they're absolutely awful. This card looks like it's absolutely awful, but, who knows, I guess. Then we had Plague Scientist, 3-cost 2/3. Combo, give a friendly minion poisonous. So that is a pretty big deal because, as you guys know, a lot of tempo rogue decks have no problem getting something out on the board, particularly because they have very efficient early game minions and also because they have very efficient early game removal. So the effect is pretty strong. This is obviously a pretty strong card. It might kind of break Arena because it's absolutely crazy broken in Arena. And it's a common card. And as you guys might know, Rogue is at the very top of Arena right now. So giving them really good class commons, that can be problematic. If all the classes get really good class commons, and that could work out, sure. And that would probably mean that Rogue is still going to be pretty damn good in the next expansion. But, I have to see I have to call him as I see him, like, this is a bit of a problematic arena card. In terms of constructed play, I initially wrote it off, but really it is a very strong effect. I don't think you need to be playing like a mid-range or control rogue to make use of the effect. It's just really powerful effect. It's just, if everybody is playing aggressive decks or combo decks, giving one of your minions poisonous doesn't have a lot of value. If you give a 1/1 poisonous to kill like a 3/2, is not really much, right? Like, you gotta be killing like 4 or 5 health minions for this effect to actually be worth it. So it's not so much, will this card be constructed viable? It's what's everyone else playing, and we're obviously not even close to knowing that. Icebreaker. Shaman Weapon. 3-cost 1/3. Oh boy, that's a real clunker. Destroy any frozen minion damaged by this. It's got some potential, right? Like, maybe it's going to be really, really easy to freeze stuff, and you can keep it frozen. Well, that makes it just fine, because, well, you probably not taken too much face damage, so you can kind of invest some of your health in killing some of the bigger things, kill 3 big things, and if it's easy to freeze stuff. Now, right now in the game, it's not so easy to freeze stuff. So this card, if it just came out on its own right now, is absolutely pointless. So bad. Which, again, then kind of means this is a really bad arena card, because in arena cards, even though synergies might exist, you typically have to look at the standalone card, because getting synergy to work in arena is just a real challenge. So it's not going to be a good arena card, but who knows? Maybe it's going to be some really crazy off-the-wall frozen mechanics that makes it a decent constructed card. Blood Queen Lanathel, a Warlock Legendary. So keep in mind, each class gets 2 Legendaries. At least 2, I don't know for sure. So you get like the Hero Legendary, the Hero card, which kind of makes each of the classes into like a Death Knight that kind of theme of the expansion. And then you get the normal legendary. This is the normal legendary for Warlock. It, again, looks pretty clunky. I like that it's Blood Queen Lanethel. I really like anytime I see something that I, experienced in World of Warcraft and moved to Hearthstone. It gives me those feels, man. I love that. And, we US firsted Blood Queen Lanethel when I was leading Exodus and Icecrown. So, we have some history with this. This is good. It's good. I'm very happy to see it again. However, the card is questionable. And the effect is not a battle cry, so it's a continuous effect. Continuous effects are really strong because they can keep happening. The main issue is that it has to do with discarding cards. And the problem with discarding cards in Hearthstone is it's just totally random. Other card games take upon the discard mechanics and have like highest casting cost cards in your hand, lowest casting cost cards in your hand, discarding specific cards with other specific cards. But in Hearthstone, card discard is like, well, you might just lose this card when you're trying to ramp up the effect for this card. And that makes it really horrible, as it turns out. So, yeah, the discard mechanics in the game right now are nowhere near up to standard for this card to see play. But again, who knows? Like, if you can slam like 3 attack on this thing's pretty damn good. But can you really do that consistently? Right now, the answer is absolutely not. So we'll see what the future brings. Warrior weapon, a 4-cost 2/2. That's a very weak attack on this weapon, but the Battlecry and the Deathrattle deals 1 damage to all minions. So we had Deathspite in the past, and that was obviously one of the best weapons ever. Getting it off a Deathrattle effect allows you to combo a Whirlwind with 0 mana, which is extremely powerful. And using this to get the Whirlwind effect when you play it is pretty powerful. You have to think about it. It's like, yeah, it's not really a 2/2 weapon because, you play it and then you attack. That's kind of like 3 damage to what you attack and then 1 to everything else. Right? That's a little better than 2 damage. And then on the second attack, it's kind of the same thing. So it's kind of like a 3 attack, 2 durability weapon with some cool side effects. So just kind of as a standalone card, it's pretty good. And we know that cards like these have heavy combo influence in Warriors. So this has got to be a pretty decent card. And it's a good standalone card. I think it's a good combo card. So I think it's going to be pretty solid in Arena as well. We had Prince Taldaram. So I actually got a little bit excited about this card. Some people just like, Kripp, what are you talking about? You're crazy. This card's terrible. Well, this card is terrible, right? Okay, but, 3-cost cards is kind of where you can cut back a lot. So we saw a previous legendary that had an effect trigger from if you have no 2-cost cards trigger the effect. That's not happening. But 3 cost is possible. It's certainly costly, but it's possible. So where would you use a card like this? You'd use it where you can get a very powerful minion with like an end of turn effect. Like, if you can get Emperor Tharson, if you can get Malagos, if you can get a few others copies for 3, the fact that it's 3 and not the faceless 5 can be a game-breaking difference. So obviously, again, the card is not good, but it can be. And the exploration and finding out is what Hearthstone is all about, in my opinion. So I think this card is cool. I think it's fun. I think there's some chance it might actually be part of a really powerful combo deck, though we'll obviously have to see. Then we had Nerubian Unraveler, 6-cost 5/5. That's terrible stats, and then spells cost 2 more. There's 4 for the time that this is in play. It's kind of like a permanent effect. It's kind of like the Lotheb thing. Lotheb gave costs +5. The fact that it did +5 instead of, let's say, +2 is a pretty big deal. It made it so you just literally couldn't play 2 spells on the same turn. So with this, you can still play quite a decent number of spells. But if you play this on an open board against a spell-heavy class like a mage, a priest, maybe a rogue, if they have to remove this with a spell, they're basically wasting 2 mana against your 6. So you kind of played a 4-cost 5/5 that had to be removed. That's good. Yeah. Again, Constructed is all about combos and stopping combos. This kind of stops combos, but it's 6 mana. So it's a bit of a questionable viability in Constructed. This is definitely a very good arena card. And we'll have to see. It might be the counterplay that we asked for spells. And the last card today, the Mountain Fire Armor. 3-cost, 4/3 warrior rare card. And if it dies on your opponent's turn, you gain 6 armor. So basically, if your opponent decides to kill this, you're rewarded with 6 armor, which is better than 6 health, and it's 3 for a 4/3. That's a pretty good card. Constructed is about staying alive, but if you're playing a warrior and you can't give this taunt or anything, you're obviously playing like, a slow control deck, it might not work out. It's a bit of a questionable card, but who knows? It's extremely powerful. The power level of this card is just really, really high if you're playing the armor up game. It's just the armor up game has kind of been relatively dead for a while, so again, quite the mystery factor. Now, as opposed to the first batch of cards that we got, while most of these cards seem bad on their own, there is that X factor. There's something to think about. What if this archetype could work? Then maybe this card would be really strong. What if this other card existed? Maybe this card would be really strong then. So it kind of starts the hype. It brings some hope in people. And, while I have overall been a bit disappointed with the power level of the cards we're seeing, maybe that's a good thing, and maybe their strategy is to ramp up into the powerful cards. So we'll have to see. I certainly am starting to get some of the hype right now, and I can understand where some of these cards are coming from, and even if they're gonna suck, it looks like I'll have a lot of fun exploring the viability of them regardless. So let me know what you think. Hope you guys enjoyed review number 2, and shouldn't be long on number 3 because, all these cards basically got released in the last 24 hours, so we'll see at what rate they're pumping them out, and check back soon. Hope you enjoyed it. See you tomorrow.